Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we're going to go over some more Deep Rock Galactic builds. This is specifically looking at the suits, and we are going to talk about each suit individually, from Driller, Engineer, Gunner, and Scout. Talk about what builds I use with them, and what the pros and cons are for, well, each suit, as well as each of the modifications you can put on your suit. Your suit will also give you more health the more upgrades you invest into it, so it's a very good idea to buy all the upgrades for your suit, even if you have no intention of using all of them. So let's begin with tier 1 modifications. All of these stay the same except for the tier 3 modification, which changes based on the class that you're playing. So our first option in tier 1 is improved generator. This makes it so your shields regen faster, and so instead of taking 7 seconds for your shields to start regenerating, it takes 6 seconds. This one can be pretty good, because if your shields are coming up more frequently, that means enemies are going to have to break your shield before they can get to your health, which is a good option. 6 to 7 seconds can sometimes come in clutch. Sometimes you will just get enough shield to not die from a single hit. Our second option in tier 1 is boosted converter. This makes it so your shields take longer to regenerate, going from 7 seconds to 9 seconds, so you have to wait longer for them, but they regenerate at twice the speed. So you get the shield up much faster once it actually starts charging. This one I find to be probably the weakest tier 1 option. Regenerating your shield faster is really nice, but taking 9 seconds to have that happen is not really that great. I find it more useful to have a faster charging shield in combat. Having it out of combat is nice, but I don't find this to be particularly great in my opinion. Our third option in tier 1 is bigger mineral bag. So this makes it, instead of carrying 40 of any material, we can carry 45, which is really good. Sometimes there are veins of gold or nitra that are a little bit above 40, and it's not really worth it to go and mine, almost all of it, go put it away, and then have to come back and get the last little bit. You'll probably just forget it. If you have that larger bag, it is a little bit easier to get materials and hold a lot of them so that you can put them into Molly or put them into the space rig, whatever it might be. Generally, I take the bigger mineral bag just so that I have a nice quality of life upgrade to my suit. If you don't like that, if you're okay with taking, if you're okay with just the 40 minerals, then I would recommend improved generator. Both are pretty good options. Improved generator does make it so your shields come up a little bit quicker. Most of the time I don't notice a huge difference during combat or anything, but I do notice a pretty big difference in just the quality of life of picking up all the minerals that I can with mineral bag. That's why I usually go with it. In tier 2, we have Overcharger. This makes it so your shield is stronger by 5. So instead of having 25 shield, you have 30 shield. This can be really good on the lower difficulties where enemies can't easily break your shield, so that way your shield can keep coming up and keep regenerating. On the higher difficulties, not so much. Enemies will likely rip apart your shield and hit your health with one hit. So this does minimize it a little bit because you get 5 more shield, so it's going to affect your health less. But on the higher difficulties, I don't tend to use Overcharger. I usually go with Healthy. Healthy makes it so that you get 20 more total HP. This will give you more tankiness overall, and when you are put in those situations where your shield is broken, you can usually take an extra hit that you wouldn't normally be able to, thanks to just having bonus health. Now, this is going to depend on what type of hit, what type of enemy actually hits you. If a bulk detonator blows up and you were already almost dead, well, it's definitely not going to save you. But in something like Grunt Swarms, this can save you. It does make it a little bit easier for you to tank through a few more hits than you normally would, or at least one more hit than you normally would. I usually go with Healthy just for that reason alone. That being said, if you are finding yourself not getting hit very often at all, it might be better to go with Overcharger then, simply because if your shield is constantly regenerating, you'll always have your shield up. It will always keep coming back. Health does not always come back unless you have a resupply, or if you have a perk like Vampire, or if you are actively mining sugar. All of this could be taken away, especially if you're going very quickly through missions and you're not getting hit very much. Overcharger might be better, simply because it will give you more value. In tier 3, this is where the suits start to change. For the Driller, we have temperature insulation, this being fire resist, so we get 50% reduction to fire. All fire damage, which can be really useful in certain areas. It's very useful in Magma Core, where you're likely going to get burned every single time you go there. That's just how that place is. This also helps with any fire-based weapons that might be hitting you, or any weapons that can get fire overclocks, fire perks that they might be running, like the white phosphorus buckshot that Scout might be running. You'll take reduced damage from the fire. If you're running the fire minigun, you can take reduced damage from the fire minigun hitting you. Same if you have another driller with a flamethrower, or if you're using your own flamethrower and getting hit by your own fire. Or even a incendiary grenade. All of those can be pretty useful, although all of this is friendly fire damage that we're talking about, and the only actual enemy damage that you're really going to be taking that's fire related, at least directly most of the time, is magma core. Going to magma core and just burning from the environment, which can be a bit annoying. I find the fire resist to be pretty useful when you're going to magma core, because magma core is one of the harder maps. Outside of that, it's not super useful, but it has its place, and it's kind of a nice quality of life. For the engineer suit, we have hazmat system. This reduces poison damage by 50%. This is also really good, especially if you're in the bog. Having the poison mushrooms hit you is less annoying as engineer. It's still annoying, but it's not as bad. And this will also count towards like the Praetorians' death cloud that they put out. You'll take reduced damage from that. Reduced damage from poison can be pretty useful. You're not really going to be taking friendly fire damage from poison. It's mostly environmental damage or Praetorians that's going to probably be the majority of the poison. And this is just kind of a nice quality of life perk as well. Makes it so you don't get hurt as bad by things like that. Poison's also not likely going to be hitting you too frequently. For Gunner, we have reactive armor. This makes it so we take reduced damage from explosions. This can be pretty useful. Taking reduced damage from explosions is kind of nice because this counts for exploders, bulk detonators, friendly fire, any sort of friendly fire explosives, so the grenade launcher, your own grenades, whether that be the sticky grenades or the cluster bombs. Scout's armor makes it so that you take reduced fall damage. I would say that this one is probably the best because statistically, more dwarfs die from falling than from any other source. Whether that be the resupply pod hitting them, enemies actively trying to kill you, friendly fire killing you, it's usually falling off of things that kills you the most. So having reduced fall damage is pretty nice. So I would argue that Scout has the best of the resistances just because statistically you're less likely to die with this than not. Although with Scout you are going to be going to more risky places thanks to your grappling hook. You're probably going to be taking more fall damage than the other classes, so this is really handy for Scout anyway. Moving on to the tier 4 options, we have Shockwave. This makes it so once your shield breaks, you damage all enemies around you. This can be kind of useful. It's very good in against swarmers. If swarmers hit you and this breaks, you can kill multiple of them. That's pretty nice, especially if you're running like thorns. Just so that enemies like that can't swarm you quickly. Against grunts, sometimes it can work. Against larger enemies like Praetorians or Oppressors, it's probably never going to work, at least to kill them, but it will hurt them, which is always a nice thing. We also have Static Discharge. This makes it so when your shields are broken, you have a chance of stunning all nearby enemies. This one can also be pretty good. This one can work on large enemies, and it's pretty handy when it does work on a Praetorian that hits you, or something like an Oppressor. And then we have Breathing Room. This makes it so that you have 3 more seconds of temporary invulnerability once you get rezzed. This one is the one that I take the most often at higher difficulties just because it does give you that extra breathing room. You have plenty of time to potentially get picked up, go over and start rezzing up another teammate, or put up some sort of defense. So if you are Gunner, you could throw up your shield. If you're Engineer, it gives you enough time to potentially build your turret or build both your turrets, assuming you're running that type of setup. So you get a lot of options right there. Or you can potentially run over and start getting red sugar, refill your health, and be back into the fight at full health. That's why I usually take Breathing Room. It's not entirely necessary, and sometimes I do switch it for the Static Discharge. I find that to be pretty useful too, because sometimes when you do get the stuns, it's pretty nice. You are given enough time to actually get away from whatever your situation is, especially if you're running the active perk Dash. Then you definitely can run away. So it's useful for all those type of things, but usually I will go with Breathing Room just to have that extra, breathing room. Another build for the suits that I take, especially on lower difficulties, is usually going more for the shield, which is going with the improved generator, so my shield comes up faster, having a larger shield, so my shield is just stronger. And then honestly, you can take any of the tier 3 ones. I usually take Static Discharge just so that I get the stun if my shield does break. But Breathing Room's good if you find yourself going down frequently, or Shockwave's pretty good for just killing small enemies that are trying to attack you. I use this on lower difficulties because my shield can take more hits then, so my shield is just regenerating quicker. It also just helps if I'm being kind of reckless and taking a bunch of fall damage or blowing myself up partially with whatever weapons. It's just kind of nice there because my shield will just keep regenerating and I'm not as worried about enemies being able to quickly down me. So just having the most health and the most regen is kind of nice. I don't usually run this on higher difficulties simply because enemies can break your shield so fast, and I find just having more health and more survivability is a little bit more useful in those situations. This is just more utility where I'm not too worried about the shield breaking, and if it does break, there might be a chance of stunning enemies. So these are the two builds that I use with Suit. Hopefully you guys found this informative. If you guys did, be sure that you're subscribed. That way you get notifications whenever I post any of these videos. Thank you guys as always for watching this. I really do appreciate it, and I will talk to all of you guys next time. Till then, stay cool, and bye!